what is examination of conscience?
Yeah, it's always a good place to start with definition of terms. Examination of conscience is always denotative or connotative of the idea of thinking about your actions, having a review, having in a way, a time to sit back and assess what you are doing. A time of stock taking, to be able to say, this is what I'm doing, this is where I'm going, this is how far I've come, and what do I need to keep doing in order to get to my destination. So when the church asks us to examine our conscience, it's basically saying to us, you need to take stock. You need to stop, take stock, and then prepare yourself for the journey as you continue on it.
Okay, so why is it important that we do this?
It's important because if you don't know where you're coming from, you don't know where you're going. And if you don't know where you're going, you are as good as lost. So it's important that you stop and occasionally say, where am I going? Okay, am I on the right path? And am I even making progress in this journey? Because you can be journeying and you're not really making any progress. You're just running around in circles. If you live in a place like Lagos, it's easy to lose your way. In fact, the chances are that you're going to lose your way than you're actually going to get to where you're going to, unless you actually know where you're going. So it's always good from that point of view to say, I need to stop occasionally and ask myself, how far have I gone in this journey, and am I making progress?
In what dogma or doctrine of the church is examination of conscience rooted?
The examination of conscience is rooted in the church's teachings about forgiveness of sins. Because when we make strides in our journey of faith, we are bound to make some missteps. We are bound to make some mistakes. We are not perfect. In fact, it's a journey towards perfection. And a journey towards perfection is not a perfect journey. It's a journey towards something. It's a process. It's a growth. It's a learning process. So the church always encourages us to understand that whenever we make those missteps, whenever we take those wrong turns, we have to come back to the right path by taking stock, by evaluating ourselves, by reviewing, and then going to confession and saying, Lord, I have sinned, I am sorry, and I wish to come back to you, and I wish to get back to that relationship I'm supposed to have with you. So it's grounded in the church's teachings of forgiveness of sins. We say that in the creed when we say, I believe in the forgiveness of sin.
Do you think that shame, is important in all of this? Do you think it's something that a Christian should develop?
Yeah, when you speak of shame, and just speaking of it just as a word, it doesn't carry a lot of weight. People just say, what is that? But when you look at it from the point of view of culture, from the point of view of religion, from the point of view of conscience, like you mentioned, one should blush when they do something that is wrong, okay? And they should be able to say, this is wrong. Let me just give a good example. Something happened yesterday while we were driving to the studio, and we got to a traffic light, but then it was still green, and there happened to be some kind of an accident. Thankfully, nobody was hurt. But then that went on for what seemed like 30 seconds. And the time in which everything dispersed and we were free to go, the red light came back on. And then there was this very impatient bus driver who just almost drove past the light, almost getting towards the light. And then the traffic warden just did, where are you rushing to?
Typical.
And he just buried his head. The driver just buried his head. That is to tell you that he is aware of the concept of right and wrong. And that when you do something wrong, and clearly you're in the wrong, you should bow your head and say, I shouldn't have done that, or this is a misstep. So that's the context in which we should understand shame. And we should be able to say, if I've done something wrong and somebody tells you, hey, this is wrong, I should be able to say, I am sorry, I shouldn't have done it, but now that I've done it and I know that I should do better.
How often, first of all, should one carry this exercise? I mean, sometimes it may be drab because the church recommends that we do it at the end of every day.
Yes.
And then sometimes people may okay, nothing there, okay, I'm good. Come back the next day, the same thing. It feels monotonous. So how can we effectively carry this out?
I think anybody who is rational understands that before they make any decision, they always want to assess the pros and cons. That's an examination of conscience. That is that's an assessment of value to say, this thing I'm about to do now, what do I stand to gain? And what do I stand to lose? And many times when we do things, at the end of the day, it boils down to what I stand to gain and what I stand to lose. But in all of those things, you must ask yourself, am I like Jesus? Like I said, at the end of the day, you're a Christian. After all is said and done, nobody else cares whatever you're going to do. What matters the most is who you are, who you say you are, and are you really living up to who you say you are as at the end of the day? So in every action, we must always examine our conscience. We must always examine what is at stake. And then at the end of each day, no matter how tired you are, do a cursory look of the whole day. It's never going to be drab if you are somebody who is particular about the kind of life you want to live. Because, like Aristotle, the philosopher, once said, an unexamined life is not worth living.